The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. Would everyone bow, please? Would everyone bow more deeply, please? Gasho. Gasho, I think, is the Dharma gate to harmony. When we bow to one another, we're bowing to many things about the other and ourselves. The most important one, though, is that we trust the other, in that when we bow, you don't have to do so. When we bow, we're opening our neck. We're looking down in the presence of others, trusting that we will be okay when we are able to rise. When we bow to another, we're also saying, I bow to the goodness within you. Or in Buddhism, I bow to the Dharma. I bow to your essence as a sentient being. I bow to our interconnectivity. I bow to our impermanence. So the act itself is both production of the hormones that allow us to feel safe. It's also symbolic, and it also is kind of an opening for us to talk about the three refuges. So very briefly, Buddha, the fully awakened one. What does fully awakened mean? Dharma, the compassionate teaching. What does compassionate teaching mean? Sangha, the harmonious community. What does harmonious community mean? When Ananda asked Sakyamuni Buddha, what is the importance of Sangha? Sakyamuni Buddha responded, it is the end all and be all. Those are my words. End all and be all. End and being. Another way of thinking about the three treasures is teacher, teachings, and taught. The teacher, Buddha, the teachings, the Dharma, and those who are taught, the Sangha. So notice the sequence has to occur from left to right. Teacher finding something, living a life by what that person found, his particular ethics and morality, demonstrating the wellness accumulated through this way of life, which we call the middle way. The teachings that he offered, Dharma, in terms of those immaculate possibilities, if you follow them, creates a sense of well-being similar to what he had. The harmonious community then is a place for like-minded people together, looking at the teachings and remembering the life of someone so important to the fact that we are now in a Sangha. We get in a Sangha because of the teaching and the teacher. We can't be taught without the first two. So as we look at harmonious community, I've offered a talk that I did earlier that you will find in the resources that Cosette's mentioned. And as a result of that, I'm not going to parrot what I said then, but rather ask you to look a little bit more deeply into self, into knowing the self as in knowing the Sangha. So this is how it's going to work. I think I would suggest, Cosette, that we do 2 breakout groups and just make sure that Amy and Inmo are in one. And the other one will be Ikuse.
Okay.
So this is what's going to happen. I'm about finished. I have a few more comments to make, but I want you to have an opportunity to simply talk with other people for about 20 minutes about what is harmony. Harmony, by definition, is a sequence of pulsations that are regular, cyclical, and maintain a sense of symphonics or a sense of accord. All things have this ability. For example, if we say harmonious community, we could say visionary community, intimate community, listening community, right speaking community. So we could take any of the senses that we have and simply express them thoroughly, which creates a sense of harmonics. So this accord, I think, is measured by discord. I offered John Williams in the presentation, listening to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, bom, 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 trying to establish a way of communicating between an alien and us, or between them and we, the aliens. This is what we do in communication, in interconnectivity. It's that we're always searching for that rhythm, that thing that rises up in us that makes us more than just the sum of the parts. So in this context, have some time to explore this. And when you come back, we'll have you report out, and then we'll get together as a group. And I would hope, Cosette, if new people arrive, simply put them in one of the two groups. So let me introduce the leaders. First, Inmo, who has been with us for 6 years. Amy is new. She and Inmo are going to be working together. And Ikuse, who also happens to be one of our Tensos, has been with us for a long time as well, and she'll be facilitating the other group. So they all know what to do, so enjoy your time in these two groups, and look forward to seeing you when you return. Thanks, Cosette. Welcome back. All right, everybody's back. As it turns out, we had a third breakout group with Cosette, Lee, and myself. So I brought Lee up to speed on what was happening. But now let's begin, I think, with Inmo and Amy. If you have somebody that could simply read, identify what you talked about, we'll hear that, and then we'll go to Ikuse's group, hear the same thing, and then we'll have a total discussion. So, Inmo.
Actually, handing the ball over to Amy, who took the notes for us. We had a fantastic discussion. So glad.
Amy-san.
In the knots, it was a really nice discussion, and of course it just gets going. It could keep going. The ideas that were that came up, the first question was about overall the first thoughts about the meaning of harmonious community, and harmony in music was mentioned several times, and the harmony of just gathering of people as an experience of harmony in and of itself. Sangaku spoke about community that is first and foremost dedicated to listening and working together in accepting, and the creation of a safe environment to speak from our hearts, and the building of trust. Trust was discussed with this, inspired by Sensei, by your comments about trust. So willingness to listen and acceptance, tolerance, and shared goals were shared. Joe Inmo, excuse me, talked about dissonance as a type of harmony, and vibrations moving at a fast rate, but that it being a type of harmony. We talked about chanting. Examples, when we moved on to examples of, and it was Jeff who spoke about the shared goals of the group, like-minded people with shared goals. The next question was about examples of harmonious relationships or practices. Kushin's example was student-teacher relationship and the nourishment and understanding of Sangha that comes through the teacher-student relationship. Sangaku spoke about the key discipline of Sangha is to be accepting of whatever people are expressing and to give them support. Jeff shared about the experience and challenge of learning about Sangha over Zoom.
Have about one more minute.
Okay, sorry. And I shared about how with chanting, I feel a sense of Sangha with the voices that I am with, the vibrations in my body, and with the ancestors over time, and the sense of feeling one Sangha that way. Thank you.
Gasho, thank you all. Thanks, Imo. Ikuse.
We were a small group, and PJ, who is a new member of a new Sangha in Birmingham, is our recorder. And if I may, I would invite him to speak about our experience.
Let's go.
Yeah, we actually didn't have much overlap with Amy's group's discussion, so that's probably good. Mokuo started and she was describing the energy and love that she feels in the presence of a Sangha, and how during Rohatsu, there is a just overwhelming sense of love for all the members of the Sangha. And she said it was helpful for her to think about in the communication guide for the retreat, how sometimes thinking of the impact over the intent can be helpful of the things that you say in terms of right speech. Then Ikuse shared, she talked about the importance of the atmosphere in the Zendo, and how Buddhism is a way to not only live a good life for yourself, but really for the benefit of others. And we discussed the feeling of interconnectedness with all beings. For my perspective, I don't have formal experience sitting with a physical Sangha, but I shared that when I'm practicing, I feel that I'm part of a universal Sangha of the environment and the creatures and even objects around me. Then Sensei was talking about how with Matsuoka Roshi, he talked about you and me communication. And how Buddhism started as kind of a boys' club, but expanded to include women. And he mentioned the, I guess, sort of goal that may all beings be happy, but not just happy with the way things are in reality, not the idealized world. And he gave an example of if everyone just decided to stop eating meat all at once, those animals that have been bred for food and are living in those conditions are not going to just magically be able to survive in the wild. Again, just going back to the way things are and not the way that we idealize the world. He also mentioned how our particular approach is inclusive of lay practice, which is much different than the monastic model. Similarly, is integrated with life as it is, not an idealized life. He even said that sometimes joining a Sangha, people may do it for the wrong reasons.
Okay, PJ, about one more minute.
Gotcha. And how if you join a Sangha and then 2 weeks later have to come back to real life or the non-idealized life, it can be difficult. And then he mentioned how the original Sangha was more of a, what he said, the Maha Sangha or the bigger Sangha. And that was about all of our discussion.
Gasho, thank you very much. So we have about 5 or 6 minutes here to open it up. And I'd like to have some of the newer members respond. Jeff, could I call on you, having been in one group, heard the other group? What are some of the interconnectedness that you hear or that resonates with you?
I just thought it was and it came out of both groups, kind of, it was the feeling of oneness, you know, the word you use, harmony, but just how everybody is together, looking at, you know, ancestors as a theme of this talk, as this program, and the importance of how the Sangha can strengthen all those members. They feed off of each other, and with good times and bad times. So.
Gasho. PJ, any other thoughts, having heard both sides now?
I realized when Amy's group was talking about the musical harmony, I do have a musical background. So I have experienced a lot of harmony and bouts of dissonance in terms of playing music with other people as well, and how there becomes, as Jeff just mentioned, a oneness that is hard to describe. But I hadn't really thought about the musical harmony as much until she said that.
Sometimes we go with the off note. Sometimes the off note itself takes us into a new harmony. So that leads us to the question of what do you do with discord? So I opened that up to others who have not spoken. Mission Mountain is well represented. Kushin.
Well, I think one of the things we talked about that hit home for me and speaks to your question about discord is how in Sangha we tend to drop boundaries of self so that we're not looking at trying to bring something separate from other into the discussion, but we're opening up the clarity of being able to go beyond boundaries that might normally be found. So if there's discord, we don't push it away. More like Zenku was saying, we listen deeper and open our hands wider. So that's what first comes up to me.
Made me think of an amoeba. You know, it encapsulates whatever is there and deals with the reality that is occurring. So that that becomes part of it. Sangaku?
Yeah, no, I would just kind of like to take from that, and it's like we don't really appreciate harmony until we hear a little discord. The discord, I think, helps us find our way. We're going down a path, and we might step off in the rough. Well, what's going to tell us that? And that little discord is kind of like, you could almost say it's like a aspect of suffering, which helps us steer back to dropping our own self-centeredness and get back into harmony. So I think it's a tool, listening for the discord.
It's kind of like how we deal with vows. We don't appreciate them until sometimes we step outside of them. So gasho. We have about a minute left. Anyone else before I let Hojo kind of close us out? Cosette, Lee, any comments? Lee, what about you?
Well, I agree, of course, with what everyone has said. And I do think that discord is helpful. And if we can think of our Sangha and think of the Dharma, it is actually a teacher. And it shows us in our own lives, our own actions or how we responded, and helps us to reflect upon that and perhaps think a little deeper and do something a little different next time if we find ourselves in that kind of discord.
A good place to learn, a good place to be our true self. Sensei, you've got 90 seconds. Hojo.
I think we need look no further than our television set or social media and the news to see what community without harmony looks like. So in harmonious is the characteristic of the Buddhist Sangha. We belong to many communities, but they're not necessarily harmonious. So maybe we just need to come and practice harmony. My teacher, one of my teachers, Barbara Cohn, Sensei said, residential living is like the stones rolling in a creek. They rub each other smooth.
Sure. My final comment is allow yourself now to think a little bit about equanimity. Equanimity in the broadest sense, and always last in terms of the four immeasurables. I think it is last because in some ways it's so important. If you begin with equanimity from the standpoint of the Sangha, if you open with equanimity, then these other things seem to fall into place. And one of the reasons, I think, is because when we are in Sangha, we are acknowledging to each other, our teacher, the teachings, and ourself. We are bowing to ourselves in terms of willingness to interconnect and to reduce the suffering in ourselves and others. So with that, shall we bow out? Gasho, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. And Cosette said there will be a recording available later on. So with that, Cosette, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you.